we've never really sat down and had
This is
a
a
real
first.
conversation
For sure,
and like
for
done
sure.
a bit of it. But so like, and then you spoke about your what your demo is going to be, and I want to get to that now. But can you tell me like what we did that exercise now? Who you are, where you from, what's your business? That networking exercise.
Sure. So, Gavin Hough, and I've got 4 girls and 1 stepson. And I think the link here is I did grow up in South Africa, started school in Canada, and traveled a lot because my father had this job that took him everywhere. But I spent 14 months in the Antarctic, which led to interesting work looking at the ozone hole and looking at southern lights. So the theme there, the thread, is that looking up, spending your tax dollars doing blue sky research got us into image processing, and then came back to South Africa, did a PhD in space physics, and now I've got cameras looking down, not much different, but instead of locking onto the stars, tracking aurora, we're locking onto, like a kid's computer game, a simulated landscape. So if you just imagine your lens, your focal length, where you're looking, and now we'll have forest. But the difference is every pixel and every camera we deploy isn't just RGB, it's RGBZ. And the Z or the Z is the distance between the camera and what it's looking at on the ground, which could be 20 Ks away, 10 Ks away. So when we pick up fires, the differentiating thing is that we know who the owner is, who to contact, which compartment, which neck of the woods, and you can turn your early detection into rapid response. So I think the business concept was that, much like the old wives' tale, stitch in time saves 9, we would have this early detection of wildfires, or it might be we're working on mines where when the winter storms overtop the seawall for De Beers, they flood the open cast mine, which goes down to minus 30 meters. They've lost lives, they've lost kit. So you're talking about 30 meters down. So we're trying to find an early event that's practical to respond to and low cost. Like a little fire, you put your foot in it, you can put it out. They get there with what they call a bucky-sucky and they address it. If you wait 20 minutes, you wait 40 minutes, it's a conflagration. We've had big fires in California, fires in Oregon, big fires in Alberta, Saskatchewan. So the concept is we need actionable insights that come from early detection, and then we pass the baton to dispatch. When the aerial crews approach the fire and the ground crews reach the fire line, you pivot to, is initial attack successful? If not, bring in the big guns, go for extended attack. And then the big thing is about safety on the fire line. They've lost so many lives of the big fires that you want to know where it's safe, where your escape path is, and keep that active, and that changes as the fire propagates. So that technology is what got me involved with business as a non-businessman. And I found EO has been incredible in giving insights and sharing experiences to see what can take us as a business to introduce systems and engage with challenges. So your Eureka in the lab is the first tiny step in a much bigger project. So that's the sort of background that got me into EO initially, a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. I actually did a big data course once upon a time, and they used early, I wonder if it's your data,
Yes.
They used as an example of early detection for big fires and that sort of stuff, and how you can notify. And I guess you've got now a bunch of information, like the information structured data, but you've also got how it was combated, so you get in fires and all that sort of thing.
Exactly. So it's not just the initial attack, it's having a safe principle that fights a progressively bigger fire.
So you need to get the bucky there, or you need to get 3 helicopters there now.
Exactly. And what we find is even the states, when they have huge resources, when there's a lightning bust, we had 68 fires starting at once. And there's no ways you can fight 68 significant fires at once, even if you've got the US resources. So what you do is you say which one's in the bottom third of the south-facing slope with a high fuel load. Suddenly there's 6. And then when you start detecting, you run a fire spread model to see where the fire is in 1 hour, 2 hours, and then you compare with the actuals. 1 hour later, where is that fire? Do you dial forward the forecasting simulator, or you dial it back until they match? So what we do is when we see a fire line propagate, we click along the end, and because it's what we call georeferenced, every pixel projects to a map, and you can see 4 minutes. The camera is like a lighthouse. It rotates every 4 minutes. And it picks up where the fire was detected, where it is now. Every 4 minutes, it sweeps the landscape. And you can see if it's spreading according to what the model says, and you can try and correct the model. So that's where the rubber hits the road, when you try and evacuate and you try and work out what values are at risk and what lives are at risk. That's the model. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And just to pivot, we could speak for a long time, I imagine. But to pivot quickly to your demo that I heard one sentence. So you're going to do a demo at Ignite. What is that going to be?
Look, I just thought that'll be fun. So there is this bulletproof vest. And I mean, it's a very touching story, because Lee Moram in our forum, he literally saved potentially his life and his children by having, you don't want to kill people. It's the last thing you want. A gun can very easily kill. So he's got a very high-powered, it's not a paintball, it's much more powerful, and it shoots plastic bullets that will penetrate the flesh slightly, but it won't kill anyone. And so we're going to have fun tomorrow just shooting that at the vest to prove, because you obviously want to demonstrate that these things are reliable. So I volunteered as a guinea pig, and I just hope they can shoot my vest and nothing else. And so I picked it up from Lee, and he said he doesn't need it now, he lives in an estate, but he literally had his kids behind him, and he was firing at these 4 men invading the house, and he just never forgets the slug sort of hitting the mouth and blood, and eventually they were screaming and running out. And I think in this country, you've got to address the security problem, and you have to have something that turns around the very poor perception and the reality of the highest murder rate of any significant sized country in the world. Sometimes there's a drug cartel in a tiny island that's high, but we are by far the highest murder rate. And farmers, amongst the commercial farmers, forget skin color, they are at least 4 times that and climbing. So I just think, early detection, rapid response must ultimately help with other things, and that's what we've been looking at.
Okay, so that's the other side of the spectrum.
They keep stealing our batteries, they keep stealing our solar panels, and they can hear us coming up, and normally we're not empowered to really respond in any meaningful way. So the security services that look after SAPI and Mondi and York and Komati Land Forest and MTO, Mountain to Ocean, all these guys have security companies, but they hate going to a distant hill that's looking down on fires, because as they drive up, they just drop the panels, drop the batteries, and disappear. So now we pour concrete over the lithium-ion batteries, and we're just trying to play for time. It takes longer and longer to get in, but with these new lithium-ion batteries, you can bring a grinder and you can cut through most metal, and you can steal so much given a few hours. It's become much easier. Theft is becoming easier, and I really think it's pivotal. We've got to do something. So we have to look after our own assets. No one will insure us because we've had too much stolen, and when you do your own insurance, you stay awake and you try and work out what's viable. So we've got this dual problem.
So you made me think of this. There's this quote, I think it's a Jordan Peterson quote, where he says, a good man is not a weak man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man that has that danger under voluntary control. So it's
a lovely description, yeah.
Yeah, so you must have you must have your sword, but you must keep it sheathed until it's necessary.
Exactly. And I think what's wonderful about this particular EO event is when you see how big it is now and how international it is and all the people coming through, it's a lovely place to share ideas with. What we want to do now is our software is matured through this full 60-month service level agreement. This is where I have to concede my age. The first project started, demo in 1994. We've had contiguous contracts for 60 months, 5 years in a row since 1997. And what we would now like is system integrators to take the software to other countries. And we've deployed in Ghana, we've deployed in the early days in Chile and Greece and China, we've deployed in Australia. But most of our focus is English-speaking, first world, high risk of fire, which basically leads to South Africa, no longer really first world, USA, Canada, Australia. Yeah. And we need other people to help us.
And this security thing as well, is that also
that's unique to South Africa because all the other countries I've been to, we don't lose. You might have a bit of petty vandalism. Often you'll get informal access to incredible infrastructure because the police want to have someone keep an eye on their fuel tank at the base of the tower, for example. So the sheriff there said, listen, you can have this high site as long as you keep an eye on this, and you create a preset that tours that every few minutes. And then you're inoculating your smarts on an existing infrastructure, which is very good value for the end client. Whereas here, theft is devastating, and we're self-insured, and we keep thinking of integrating the fire detection with the security of the sites. And what's happening more and more is the timber companies are starting to lose more value to theft than to fire. And given how serious fire is, that's quite something. You know?
Yeah. I thought about the riots. I know we could go and how you, and then I was at an innovation summit before, and it said I remember one of the big four, it was like the things that angel investors or VCs invest in coming out of Africa. One of them was security, because we have the most innovative thieves in the world. We always
people are bright. There's incentive.
Yeah. Is there anything else, Gav? Anything you want to finish up with? And
I'm good. I mean, I'm very happy to talk anytime about whatever works for the marketing side of EO. And I think the international nature is very cool. And that's why I'm hoping to now, for the first time, what can I get out of Forum? I'm thinking, let's see if we can use the international linkages to get system integrators to share software that is sadly so complex. You can't just install it. You need to dedicate a team to the process. So I think that sums it up.
Awesome.
It needs networking.